Venezuela witnessed multiple missile strikes in its capital on Saturday. Hours later, President Donald Trump claimed that he had captured the country's leader, Nicolas Maduro. A state of emergency was declared, and Venezuelans rejected America's military aggression. Did the United States attack on Venezuela come out of the blue? Since Maduro is out of office, who will take his place? And most importantly, what is Trump's plan for Venezuela? For deeper insights into the issue, we reached out to TP Sreenivasan, former Deputy Permanent Representative of India to the UN.
Hello, sir. Welcome to the New Indian Express.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, sir. Now, there were reports that the Pentagon was engaged in naval buildup near the Venezuela. So, do you feel that this attack was very predictable?
Yes, in fact, it was very much expected for quite some time. But of course, President Donald Trump says very many things about very many places, Panama Canal or Greenland or Canada. So we do not know what exactly, which is the one he's taking seriously, and what are the issues on which he's going to take action. Then he was, of course, involved so much in the Russia-Ukraine war, and so maybe some of these other plans were set aside. But certainly it was very much there. There could be several reasons. One, Venezuela sees itself as a kind of successor to Cuba in its relations with the United States. Because, as you know, Cuba, of course, defied the United States for many years. And much against the wish of the Americans, President Castro died in his bed. So, and that has been an inspiring story for many revolutionaries in the Southern Hemisphere. And of course, Latin America is a sphere of influence in the United States. And the United States would like to see a change and people falling in line with the American line, the Organization of American Unity, and so on. But that has been disturbed by a few countries, Nicaragua, Cuba, and also Venezuela. So maybe they were all on the list for countries to be reformed. And there are several factors. One is, of course, Venezuela has the richest oil reserve in the world. Many people don't understand that. More than Saudi Arabia, more than the Gulf countries, and so on. But Venezuelan crude perhaps is a little more difficult to refine. And that was the only reason why it did not have as much big market as the Gulf oil had. Then, of course, narco-terrorism is also something which has been prevalent. Even if it is not terrorism, narcotics are all over the place. And they find their way to Miami and into main United States. So these are all irritants in the American government as far as Venezuela is concerned. You may remember that at one time there were two presidents in Venezuela, one recognized by the US and the other not. So this has been a long issue. And President Trump has been saying that he has to deal with this. And he gave enough indication that he'll do that. But since he has been saying so many things, one did not know what his priorities were. So he has decided to strike. What exactly is his objective, we do not know. And I do not think it will go to a full-scale war. Neither Venezuela nor the United States will want to fight it. So I expect that there will be some kind of a rearrangement of things in Venezuela, and the situation will get back to normal. But in the process, maybe oil, maybe some other resources, or maybe some other kind of cooperation he may be able to get from Venezuela. And of course, the present president has to go because it has to be a new dispensation. And that may be it. I do not expect that other countries get involved in this. Like, I believe China and Iran and Russia have already criticized this action. But I do not think that they'll come all the way to South America to deal with it. So it will be finally an arrangement which will be accepted by all.
So as you said, a rearrangement of things. So a lot of experts are now saying that a new government will be installed. Do you feel the same? Do you feel that this is the first step to the installation of a new government that is much more aligned with US policy?
Yes, that is the usual regime change they have tried in various places. Many places they have succeeded. Even Saddam Hussein was a regime change. And many things Saddam Hussein did or considered to have done may not have been done by him. So that's the usual routine. Of course, in certain cases, they go to extremes, like a war and getting Saddam Hussein killed, etc. But there has also been peaceful regime change to suit the American interests. So it depends on how much the resistance is. I do not think that Maduro has the capacity to resist, and he may only expect his friends to take some action. But I do not expect it to be a conflagration. Nobody else is going to, put their this thing into all action into this region, and that is our best hope.
So, okay, sir. So, as you said, there might be a regime change. Who do you think are the main contenders to take over Venezuela right now? There is the opposition leader who is also a Nobel laureate. Do you think who would you think is likely to succeed? I succeed is a strong word, but who do you think will succeed Maduro right now?
It may be somebody whom we don't know. Of course, Machado, people say, is a candidate. She was given the Nobel Peace Prize, which President Trump himself was dreaming of. But she dedicated that Nobel Prize to President Donald Trump. You noticed all that, and she went to went to Sweden even though she didn't receive the prize herself, and it was a great adventure for her to go there. So she's going through all this perhaps that because she may be one of the people that President Trump is thinking about. I don't know enough about the other politicians in Venezuela, but there may be others. But she is the most visible candidate in the present circumstances.
Okay, sir. What would you say should be the reaction of India? What are the interests India hold in that particular region?
Well, we have had very good relations with Latin American countries, as you know. Some kind of a spiritual kind of relationship. Something amazing. All the Swamis and others, you find them more in Latin America and than in other parts of the world. In Brazil, for example. And there is a kind of linkage, even though the distance is very much. Even business and trade have also picked up in recent years. And so there is a kind of linkage. But of course, now distances are becoming shorter. And that was the only reason why we did not have much business. But it has been growing now in Latin American countries. So we have an interest in peace in any part of the world, but certainly in Latin America too. With Cuba, we had a very good relationship in spite of everyone, condemning Castro. And he also had a soft corner for India and the non-aligned movement and so on. So we have an interest in peace like anywhere else in Latin America too. And now our population has also increased in several Latin American countries. And therefore, we have a major interest in peace, and that would be what we will be saying. I don't know whether our government has issued a statement or not, but I'm sure we will want peace to prevail and action should be taken with the interests of everybody in mind and not cause destruction or war in that region.
Russia and China are two global powers who have supported Venezuela in their fight against America. Do you think that they will lend a helping hand in a time like this to their friend?
Well, that's not seem to be very practical. Even in the case of Cuba, they fought the war themselves. Of course, they had a Soviet nuclear umbrella and close cooperation, and they had plenty of money available, etc., etc. But at the same time, I do not think of a situation where anybody would have sent forces there. Because in 1962, Cuba, if the missiles were not withdrawn, there would have been a nuclear war. And both sides, without knowing that the other was doing it, they withdrew from that kind of situation. So they'll all be very cautious, and particularly knowing that Mr. Donald Trump can take very extreme decisions. And so I do not think that there will be a conflagration. They will, of course, raise it in the UN Security Council. Apparently, there has been a meeting. And so Organization of American States will take a big interest in that. And even the non-aligned movement, of which Venezuela is part, of course, is not very prominent at this time. So the global South idea that we also propagate will also come into this. But it'll more be kind of advice and plea rather than any kind of rapid action.
Okay, sir. Now, for my final question, what would you say is the aftermath of this attack? Do you think that this will blow up into a full-scale invasion, or do you, especially since the Venezuelans are still not backing down? They still, even after losing a leader, they say that the fight is not over. We will still keep fighting this invasion. Do you think that we will see a full-scale invasion with ground troops on the scene? Uh, do you think that is the scenario? That is the next possible scenario?
Well, nobody can say this because we do not know the mind of President Trump. But my own feeling is that he will try to realize his objectives without too much of bloodshed. If he gets control over the oil, and if he's able to stop the flow of drugs into United States, and if there's a regime which will serve these purposes, he would rather do that than create a world war kind of situation.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for sitting down with us, especially on such short notice, talking to us
Thank you.
about this new global scenario, which none of us were prepared for, none of us knew much about. Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your expertise, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you.